Hey, welcome to Basscraft. So I've been doing a lot of work on my basses this week, just getting them ready for when the gigs come back. I have a few gigs coming in. So I made a promise to myself April last year that I wasn't allowed to buy a new bass till all the ones I own are in perfect condition. What does that mean? No dodgy electronics, no dodgy frets, anything like that, playing perfectly. So I've one down, many more to go. Started on my number one bass, this Fender Aerodyne. So I've replaced the pickups, new potentiometers, everything is redone. It's playing perfectly now, not a dodgy fret and no noise. It's all shielded, all that. So if you want to see me, the process, or just some pictures of me doing that, you can just follow me on Instagram. But today we're talking about solo bass with Mischa Marcks, and this is a fun episode because we're both actually playing a bit of bass, and I didn't even trim the start of the conversation. I left in the little sound check just so you see like what you might do to get a good bass sound yourself on Zoom. I thought that might be informative, or you might think it's pointless and you can skip it, so that's up to you. So Mischa's a really busy guy. He's got a really good mailing list. It's called Bass Tribe. So if you sign up to that on his website, of course all his links will be in the description. If you sign up to that, he get like free music and offers in his shop and just cool stuff, bass info every few weeks or so. Also, he's running the Mission Bass Facebook group, which is a really tight-knit group that's very active, posting interesting stuff, sharing each other's content, and of course he's running really interesting seminars and interviews as well. So basically it's all in his links. Check that out. And he's also given bass lessons where you can benefit from his years of experience, so definitely go and do that. So I hope you enjoyed the chat. It's a pretty long one. We really we got into it. Obviously we were covering his career, his solo album, and then we were picking up the bass and playing a bit and talking about solo bass and what that means and stuff like that. So I think you'll find this one really interesting. As usual, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll see you in a minute. 2. Hey man, you can hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's just setting up two different mics. Wasn't really sure.
I just usually just plug it in to my interface in Zoom, my bass in and my microphone, and then they both come out.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to have a little bit of amp sound, but for some reason I really had to crank up the mic input to get a healthy signal in OBS.
Yeah, I haven't figured out how to use OBS. I haven't figured out OBS myself yet.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. 2. Can you hear my bass guitar?
Yeah. Great balance.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I can boost the bass when I'm in post anyway, if I have to, for certain parts.
And I'm basically going from the DI out of the amp into the interface.
Is there any way you can change your angle where we could see your actual bass guitar in case you're like,
yes,
say if you're when you're explaining like,
how's this? Hello.
Better when you're doing tapping stuff, a lot of it's just shape based, isn't it? It's like, yeah, a lot of that is just like, it's this shape, and for people who aren't into music, people don't understand theory, they just look at the shapes.
Just get that down a little bit. Like so.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Cool.
That's good. Are you happy so, or are you... I think it sounds really good. I can hear your voice, your bass, everything.
Okay, awesome, perfect. Yeah, with OBS, I've made the experience you can't ever be sure how it comes out on the other end.
No.
I've had it sound really great here, and then I listen to the stream and it's like super quiet.
Yeah, you have to do a lot of test streams where you just record yourself and then watch them back to see.
Exactly, but I can't be bothered.
Yes, me too.
Every stream is a test stream for me.
I did my first one there 2 weeks ago. Had a show with my band, and I just streamed me preparing, like relearning all the old songs, but the technology just let me down. I just couldn't figure it out in the end. I just gave up and just had a conversation. I said, "Oh, I can't get the music to work. I'll just talk for a while."
Oh, you were playing to the original tracks then?
Backing tracks, yeah, trying to play with the tracks, you know. But yeah, that's all good, man. I think we could kick off. What time is it where you are? It's
8.
Oh, it's 8.
So,
okay, so you're in Germany, aren't you?
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I'm just going to read off your website. So it says, "Hi, I'm Mischa Marcks, and I'm the guy who thinks the bass is all you need. It's my mission to put bass in the spotlight and show you that it is one of, if not the best, solo instruments in the world." So a serious statement there. And also you say, "Join me on Mission Bass." So do you want to tell us a bit about what's going on with this Mission Bass that you've set up?
So yeah, it's kind of a long story. I try to keep it short because I've been playing solo bass for about 10 years, maybe even 1 or 2 more. And obviously, like every musician trying to make a buck with it, but it never really felt right to promote my music and ask for buy my album, come to my shows and everything. And yeah, I kind of, in that situation, I was stuck. And through some side hustles that I went through, I kind of gotten on the track of reading a lot of books about how the brain works, how marketing works, how serving each other relationships work. Because I'm a really what would you call them? I'm
people person.
No, I'm really not.
Oh,
I mean,
you're introverted.
I mean,
you're a super introvert. Is that it?
Exactly. I'm a super introvert. I mean, once I get started, I'm okay. And I've kind of gotten myself to that point that when I'm in a situation where it's asked to be a people person, I can be. But I really love loneliness, so I didn't have much trouble in this crisis.
I'm the same. I struggle with being an introvert and being a musician for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly. Everyone is just always talking.
Well, you're supposed to. It's like they want you to be a good hang, you know, to be
exactly
an employee. I did an audition for a band there years ago, and musically the audition went great, like, but just for the hanging out, I was thinking, these guys don't get me at all. Like, I don't have the same sense of humor, and I'm just I am an introvert, like, so I have to say big shout out to the 2 guys who put up with me in the band, because I don't know what 2 other people like, but that's a hard side of music, isn't it? The whole being a good hang, the pressure to be a good hang, maybe.
Yeah, or just enjoying to be a good hang. I can pull it off. I just don't enjoy it for too long. I need a lot of time on my own to reflect and just not think about how I come across. And I guess to some degree, that's also why I started the whole solo bass thing. But eventually I came about a book that's called The Go-Giver. And that's kind of countering that whole go-getter mentality where you're just out there to get what you can. So go out there and give what you can. And I thought, for once, it's not a big thing, not a big secret. Bass is pretty underappreciated. If you go to any music school and the instruments they offer, it's guitar, piano, vocals. If you're lucky, you get drums and bass. Well, the bass teacher usually has 50% guitar students, if not more than that.
Yeah.
So it's just not very popular for people to pick up the instrument as an instrument. A lot of people don't even know it exists. Even the last guest on the Strictly Bass show that I had, Alex Lafoco, he told me that in the beginning, when he listened to bass, he thought he was listening to drums. And He just missed that extra layer that was an extra instrument. So I really thought that we us bassists as a community can benefit from a little push there, put some attention on it. And in the beginning of the crisis, or actually just before the pandemic, I started getting into live streaming, and in some way it was really great because I was prepared for it. On the other hand, I was a bit bummed because I felt, there's hardly any competition out there. But as soon as the pandemic hit, the competition was everywhere.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as easy to cut through the noise anymore. But however, who doesn't like a challenge? In the end, though, I felt that just doing live streams and kind of talking about myself was getting a bit lonely and a bit boring as well. So I had this idea of inviting other bassists and just really focusing on solo bassists to start with, because that's something that is particularly underappreciated by the whole music community. It's like bass is not a solo instrument.
Well, you get a lot of pushback, on like, if you say someone, I'm doing a solo, whatever instrument show, they'd be like, yeah, but you still bass. That's not the bass's job. The bass,
exactly.
That's not what bass does.
It's just an instrument. Any instrument can do whatever function you want. It can be a percussion instrument. It can be a chordal instrument, a melody instrument, whatever you want. You just have to make it work, obviously. Just saying, I'm going to play a lot of virtuosic technique, it's not going to make it work as a solo instrument. No. It's really about understanding the whole of music, how it all comes together. And I think I'm not sure if Carl also talked about, Carl Cruz was on your show.
Yeah.
If he also talked about it on your show, that his idea of being a solo bassist is about creating a complete piece of music on your own. And he even went further and said that it makes you a better bassist, because once you play everything at the same time, harmony, bass line, rhythm, melody, you understand the relationships, and that as a bassist you need to leave space for the rest of the music to happen. And in that sense, I totally agree, because I started out with extreme metal, and the premise was the more notes in the short amount of time, the better.
No space. Don't leave any space, whatever you do, unless it's a breakdown.
Yeah. And even there, like, if you can come up with a nice tapping lick that just keeps the 16th note going, that's perfectly fine. And it really took me a while to appreciate two-note bass lines, but then I really fell in love with it also because I just fell in love with reggae, where bass has a very prominent role and is the most popular instrument of that whole genre, basically.
And it's the rhythmic cells more than the note choice a lot of the time. Where they're dropping those notes is the most important part of it.
Exactly. And I would even say that most reggae tunes you will be able to recognize by the bass line, often more so than by the melody that the singer is singing. So it really has this iconic thing. And also, I don't know how deep you are into reggae, but they have this whole rhythm system.
Superficial knowledge of, I know Peter Tosh and Bob Marley, and that's about it.
Yeah. But even Bob Marley, they have this rhythm system going where you can come out with an instrumental, and then you have 20 artists doing a song on top of that instrumental. And that's kind of, I don't know how they do it with copyrights and all. It seems really counterintuitive to what we know about copyrights. Yeah. But somehow they have the system, and then you really know, like, oh yeah, that tune, you recognize it by the bass line, the rhythm. And then you know the rhythm, and you know there's a couple of tunes on top of that same rhythm, because the rhythm, the bass line is so strong that everybody wants to sing
Does that become like a standard almost in reggae? Yeah. It's like the rhythm or the bass line is that. So if you were at a jam session, you'd be saying, oh, it's this one.
Basically.
Is the way the song goes.
Yeah, it's a standard without a melody. Because the melodies really could could be completely opposite from one song to the next. That's really then up to the artist what to make of that rhythm track.
And why did you go to do the solo bass 10 years ago? Is it just you wanted to be able to play something at home instead of just bass lines to kind of entertain yourself, or maybe
various reasons? For once, I had practiced all this technique for my extreme metal days, and once I appreciated two-note bass lines, as I call them, and did more session work, that was really not asked for, and it felt like a waste just not using it for anything. And I tried setting up a couple of metal bands, Killswitch for one. We actually toured with an Irish metal band, Gacy's Threats. I don't know if you heard of them.
No, never heard. And I know a lot of the metal bands. I'm wearing my friend's metal band's t-shirt right now, but I don't know that one, Casey's Threats.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're still around. Also a couple of years back. But yeah, that I just quickly realized that getting a metal band to a spot where you really have a chance of making some money with it is just so much work that you have to put in up front, and the risk is so high because before you know it, one member of the band, oh sorry, I got pregnant, can't do the job anymore,
or whatever, life just gets in the way,
you know. And that was more of the reason why I quit the whole session world, because I had so many experiences where I went in and I was like, okay, this is going to be it. I just have to do my job. I have to give it all. And this could be the breakthrough. And from here, more jobs will come out of this. Or maybe I'm just going to stick with this band and tour the world and sell millions of records.
The dream.
The little boy's dream, exactly. And it didn't even go to an international tour for the most part. Or it was really 1-2 years of putting work in and maybe releasing an album or something, but then the singer decided to go solo or fired the whole band and got a new one. Or if it was more of a band situation where everyone's part of the band equally, like writing the songs together and stuff, then something happened. It always kind of fell apart. If it was a fight between the band members, if it was just different expectations of what to do. Some people, oh no, this is actually just my outlet, so I don't want to take this too serious. I don't want to put too much stress on it. It's like, oh yeah, but I do. Like,
it's very hard to find enough people, isn't it? The right amount of people that all have the same grit and determination to see it till the end.
Exactly. And I've played with people that had all day jobs and they were brilliant musicians. It was loads of fun to work with them. But when it came to making it work for me as a working musician, me getting something out of it financially, there was just no understanding. And yeah, that was disappointing because for the music, I wouldn't have left the band. But because it was, in the end, again, it felt like a waste of time. Like, I'm okay, it's a nice hobby, but my wife's at home asking me, why are you going to that rehearsal again? I haven't seen you play a gig in the last 3 months with that band, but you're going to rehearsals every second week, driving an hour there, driving an hour back, and then in between preparing songs, like what's going to come out of it? So I got some pressure there as well. But eventually it really was starting a family, just that whole dream of being on tour for the rest of my life popped like a bubble. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to be at home, enjoy my kids. Why do you have kids if you can't share time with them?
Yeah,
exactly. And then secondly, the thing that I already mentioned, I just wanted to do something with all that technique that I practiced. And to some degree, the first 3 songs really just came to me. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to write some solo music now. It was doing this exercise, tried voicings, and just kind of playing with inversions, practicing them, and oh, this sounds really great. And then in a couple of hours, I had the first song ready, and then it took about half year or a whole year to write another one when I got my loop station. And then I already had a creative breakdown. I was like, kind of used everything I can do technically. So I've kind of showed off anything, but where do I go from here?
Yeah.
And then what really helped me was to visit Victor Wooten's Base in Nature camp in 2013.
In America, or did he have them in Europe as well?
In Nashville.
Oh, you went all class. That must have been some experience.
Totally. And it was that cheap back then. I think the flight was €600, the camp was €600, so it was altogether. I mean, it's still, you can buy a bass for that money. Mm-hmm. But you can also have the experience of your lifetime for that money. And I was happy to do that.
How does the camp work, Mischa? I'm sure people are curious to know.
Yeah.
It's Victor Wooten. He's a very kind of deep thinker, and he doesn't do things the traditional way, really, does he? Like, he's almost like the Mr. Miyagi of the bass world. He'd be having you wash on and wash off or whatever.
Yeah, basically. I mean, he does give you reasons why you should do this or that. So in that sense, he differs a little bit. But how does it work? It's hard to summarize it. It's really minimal living. Like, it's not like you're staying in a hotel. It's like one big sleeping hall. I think one for the boys, one for the girls, and you're sleeping on these. I don't know how they're called in English. In German, it's Feldbetten. It's basically like they use in the military. You just have this metal kind of thing, and then just some cloth.
Just like a bunk bed or on the ground kind of thing.
Yeah, but without a mattress.
Bed.
It's really just a lining.
Okay.
Like a hammock almost. And then you get up every morning at 7:00. The first thing that you have is some kind of workout class. Every day, a different one. You have Wing Chun, Tai Chi, and there were a couple of other ones, yoga, and two more that I don't recall now. But from there on, then you kind of have, I think it was 2 times or 3 times 2-hour workshops with different teachers. And you just kind of get bombarded with all kinds of different knowledge. And to be honest, I went there and I was a bit hesitant to go, because I thought, well, I know that it's always promoted as all levels of players are welcome. And I thought of myself as quite an advanced player at that point already. So I was like, so am I even going to learn anything? And to be honest, a lot of the information that I got, I already knew, but I gained new perspectives.
Yeah. And
it also really, there was a big focus in the camp on inspiration. I was really, if you want to play music that connects to people, you have to say something. What's the message? What are you trying to say? Where can you get inspiration if you're kind of burned out? If you don't really, if you feel like you have already said everything, like I did with my first
like
composition.
This, instead of when you're going to compose a piece, don't say, okay, I'm going to use this technique to make this song. You might say, I want to convey this emotion with this piece of music.
Exactly. Yeah, or experience. And that's why there were like funny exercises where you did the blind walk barefoot. The grass was frozen basically, and you're just walking over, was like an army of zombies, just towards a drum, just by the ear, finding out really carefully. And we had some workshops on how to not really track animals, but how to get closer to them, how to move so they don't notice you, that you just have to move really slowly and really still, and maybe also just stand around and wait for them to come. And how you can really consciously use the whole peripheral view that we actually have, which is basically 180 degrees, but not only, but also because of our gadgets, we're just so focused on looking straight ahead and not noticing what's around us and missing so much of life.
That's so you didn't mention bass playing once in the whole camp. That's what's interesting about this camp. There's a lot of, so a lot of it wasn't actually just you know, I suppose you can get a traditional bass lesson anywhere. So this sounds like something
No,
completely different.
I would still say 70 to 80% was bass playing.
Okay, but this stuff kind of stuck out because it was so
to
different.
me, it did.
Yeah.
Like the bass playing part, as I said, especially as a teacher, I got a lot out of it because it's new methods and how to teach stuff. That was more like, oh, okay, actually, it's really inspiring how they teach here. I know the material, but presenting it in this way makes it so much easier for the student to grasp. But personally, for me, it's not like, oh my God, I've got shown how to play the harmonic major scale, or there was nothing musical that was mind-blowing that I discovered there. To me, I really came back and was like, I think I really know what I want to do now. And I also, to the degree where I played a song, and I had my 3-track demo with me and was giving one out to everyone. And I just kind of got reaffirmed that I'm on the right track because I was really worried. Oh, this solo bass thing, is this really something that I should pursue, or should I just focus on teaching or focus on session jobs, go back to that? Because there were opportunities, but I've just kind of grown tired of it, of the letdown on the end of every opportunity in the session world. And yeah, that see, I told you I was trying to tell a short story about mission bass. I haven't even gotten close to it.
It's interesting though, like that an experience like that is what reaffirmed your path and your love of the solo bass, like, because it I know being a singer-songwriter is lonely. You're singing with a guitar around the world, but solo bass is even more lonely, I'd say.
Yeah,
you're coming up against prejudice every time you go out there and do a show. Have you done lots of like shows in pubs and stuff over the years, like with the solo bass thing?
No,
not yet.
It's really hard. I mean, I have done shows, but I would not say loads of them. It's quite hard to book. Obviously, for obvious reasons. No one believes that could work. And to be honest, I think I enjoy the occasional gig, but I'm not much of I've got to be out there every weekend. It really stresses me, packing up all my stuff and then setting it up and something missing or not working, or the room just sounding crap.
Yeah.
And then in the end, no one's coming because you're playing solo bass.
I know, and you're reliant on a lot of technology as well with that solo bass thing. So all your loops and stuff, have to work.
Exactly, it's gotten there again. To be honest, once I've bought the first high range, what do we call high ticket instrument, that mini bass back there. For me, I made the decision I don't want to use any effects anymore, because if I got a bass that sounds great, why degrade it by sending it through effects? So I got rid of all of my effects. Just before that, I was playing in a drum and bass band where it was basically, I was mimicking synth bass lines. And then it felt really great doing it live, and it was great shows. The people loved it, obviously. But whenever we were producing demos or recording stuff in the studio, I was like, when I listen to those drum and bass records that are just completely produced on the computer, those synth bass lines, they sound 10 times better. They have so much more depth and all that layering that you just can't replicate on a acoustic instrument,
or even the way you play a bass line on a USB keyboard is very different. And in a cool way. A lot of the time it sounds really on a record like them ones.
Exactly. And I was thinking, like, why am I doing this to myself? The tracking is so crap, or was back then, with effects, so I should just play MIDI keyboard. And then but I don't want to play MIDI keyboard, I want to play bass. So scrap all the effects. Let's go back to playing bass as it's supposed to sound.
And was this after you recorded your album Open Pat that you there is effects on that, I think, isn't there? I was listening to it today.
There is echo and reverb for sure. Definitely a bit of overdrive. But other than that, I think most of the effects are actually in the delay. There's like mod delay at some points maybe, or analog delay that starts distorting a little bit. The main effects that I have on there are contributed by Steve Lawson.
I was thinking, I could hear his playing on this track.
Yeah,
so it's like,
exactly.
oh, that's definitely Steve Lawson.
Yeah, no, exactly. And him I also met at a bass camp, not at Victor's bass camp. That was the funny thing. I went all the way to Nashville just for Steve and Victor to tell me, oh, you know what? Later this year, we're going to be in Germany, do the same kind of thing. Like, what? But in the end, I kind of, I don't know, maybe it was destiny, but I was so happy and lucky and grateful that I didn't know about the fact that they were coming to Germany, because I would have missed out on the Nashville experience, which was completely different to what they did in Germany, the Warwick base camp, which was amazing too, but obviously not as personal because it was a much bigger group and there were way more well-known bass players, which was cool on one hand because you get to know all of your heroes one by one and really create relationships. But on the other hand, it was just, I don't know, it was really more on the technical side and it wasn't as deep, I want to say. In Nashville, also because there was like, sorry, there's no reception for internet, Wi-Fi or anything, so if you're lucky, you get phone reception.
That's brilliant, though, because then people were just there and not being distracted by their devices.
That was completely different on the Warwick base camp. Everyone was doing their selfies with their heroes, and straight away it's going to Instagram. So it's just a totally different atmosphere.
And did it take you long to record Open Pat? Did you just did it over the space of a year, or was it like years and years of track?
I think it was in total 6 years.
Oh God. That's a very long, it's like Chinese democracy or something.
Yeah, basically. And to some degree, I'm thinking if I would have just kind of done as I planned 1 year and out with it, maybe I would be much further on my path right now. But on the other hand, I can listen to this record in and out and it really makes me happy. There's not one song, not 1 second where I'm thinking, this could have been better. I am a perfectionist, and that has held me back a lot of times. But it also helped me a lot of times to just do a good job. And I think with this album, I really did a great job. And I'm definitely not going to do another 6-year cycle this time. I'm down to my 9th song for the next album, which I did start to record in March. So that's at least 100 times as quick as the last album. For the last album, I just built the studio and I wanted to try out all my gear and trying to do it as analog as possible with no possibility of recall. And then you messed something up, so you kind of had to start all over. And it was a very, very deep learning experience as well. And
I can imagine.
I learned a lot on productivity and efficiency as well.
And did you take much influence from other, because I was listening to it and I could hear a bunch of different, well, obviously I heard Steve Lawson, but I could hear maybe some Rich Brown style songs. Were you taking influence from other solo bass players, or it just happens that you that sound started to come out of the record at certain points?
No, I think actually at that point I didn't know that many bass.
I was thinking that you probably, because it was around, it was 2018 it came out, so a lot of these fellas weren't as well known as they are now.
Yeah, no. I think to that point Victor Wooten was my biggest influence. I kind of, not that any of the songs is in his style, but I guess he inspired me to go my own way in that sense. And I did 2 cover versions on that album, and I didn't really know where to look for specific solo bass inspiration. I mainly looked to for example, for the Human Nature by Michael. Oh, it's actually not written by Michael Jackson, but that's the version that I kind of got inspired by. I look more at what played the piano and how does the bass work together with the melody. So, no, Rich Brown I also only kind of discovered recently, a year or so ago when I first signed up to Scott's bass lessons.
Yeah, I love his
Really
playing.
love
He's really
him.
cool.
Yeah, and I think now on this album, I probably would have to agree that a couple of things are definitely inspired by his sound, like those long reverb tails and stuff like that. I did a lot of, or I'm not, how many songs did I do without loops? I think on this album there's going to be more songs without looping than on the last one. And just because I kind of discovered the whole reverb thing and got a really great reverb that works live. On the first album, I recorded everything without reverb, and that was all in the mix.
Yeah, the looper is kind of restrictive though as well, isn't it? Because like you're stuck in that one mode, like whatever your and chord changes, it's like you're just playing over the unless you've one of those fancy loopers that does loads of different verses and choruses.
Yeah,
you can be quite stuck in that one thing.
That's actually quite an interesting point, because in the beginning, coming from my drum and bass band, I had 2 MIDI floorboards, and I was thinking of using Ableton Live for looping. But I just discovered I wasn't playing bass anymore. I was just kind of on Ableton figuring out how I can reverse this loop and then arrange it so this kind of gets triggered automatically, and then this happens and that happens, and here I can just with a push of a button transpose it half a step up or whatever. And I don't really want that. I was like, it's too many possibilities. I get distracted and I lose focus. And it's even going without Ableton Live. It still took me 6 years to write, record, and mix my first album. So I'm glad I didn't go with Ableton Live.
Yeah.
I probably still would be in the making, that album.
Cool. Go on, sorry.
I really like the Boss Looper because it limits me with the 3 tracks. You really have to be clever about it and think of ways how to, because sometimes also now on this album, I don't use my looper when I record my albums. But then at some point I'm going to have to translate what I recorded to a version that works live. And then I really have to start thinking, okay, maybe I just kind of take this loop away, or I'm just going to edit on the second chorus. And maybe at this point here I can add a layer, and then in the second verse I can delete that layer again, just to have a little bit more dynamic range and have more variation in a song, rather than the rookie looper who kind of just stacks another loop on top, another loop on top, another loop on top, and then in the end it's just bam. Okay,
yeah, it's over.
I'm done.
Yeah, that's what I do. Though I don't have anything that can do like extra loops. I can just stack them on top of each other. But
exactly, but that's how I started. So I don't think you can get around that period. You just have to, because what that also teaches you is how you have to use tone and sound to really make these loops still sound separate and not just create a big mash. So really also leave space in your playing, but also just kind of work with the electronics of your bass, or if you have any effects pedals to kind of, okay, here I'm going to have to dial out the bass so the guitar part doesn't fight with the bass and stuff like that.
Definitely. Sure. Will we play a bit? I was thinking you might break down one of your pieces. I'll play a bit as well. Since I've been at home so much, I was like, usually, you know, you write these kind of doodles that you play in Soundcheck or mess around like. But since I haven't been going to Soundchecks, I kind of started finishing some of the doodles. So I wrote this thing. It's kind of just like, it's just a major, E major, the whole piece is just based around E major pentatonic. Kind of like,
nothing wrong with that.
Do you know the way Jimi Hendrix used to do those piano chords? He'd put his thumb up here and he'd make the notes ring out. So that's kind of what it's based around. What's the tempo? I butchered it a bit, like, but rhythmically it was a bit butchered, but that's the gist of it. But I'm not used to playing solo bass.
No, to be honest, that's probably your advantage, that you're not used to playing solo bass, because you don't have this stress or expectation to yourself to, for lack of better words, over deliver. You're just playing straight from the heart. I really like that tune. Some parts kind of rang a bell, sounded familiar, some reminded me of something that I heard before, but it's just, yeah, that's exactly what music should be about.
Well, I just approached it as a song, I suppose, more than at an academic study. It was just like, what will sound nice, you know?
Exactly. And that was one of the problems that I had when I first started, or after those first 3 songs that just came to me. And I was just trying to present something and make it really exciting. And, how can I put some tapping in there and some double thumb slapping? And the moment I took that approach, the song always turned to shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a lot of time to learn to appreciate a composition like that and just go with it and say, actually, that's what's gonna help solo bass to be accepted around the world, and not the stuff that unfortunately so many solo basses are doing.
It has to be musically good. That's the only important thing, is that it's good music, so anyone hears it go, oh, I like that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who said that quote, there's good music and there's bad music, and that's it.
Duke Ellington, I think, said that.
Yeah, but that's also subjective to everyone. So everyone has their own idea of what good and bad is. And I think what a lot of musicians fall trapped to is that we play to entertain ourselves, and then we complain afterwards, why is no one paying for my music? Why is no one coming to my show? Well, it's because you're playing for yourself. You're not playing to connect with anyone. You're just connecting with your instrument, which is great. But don't expect anyone to connect to you while you're totally into yourself and into your instrument.
Or listen to what you recorded and honestly say to yourself, would I listen to this? Like, I know it's amazing what I'm playing, but would I sit down and listen to me playing for an hour? And the answer would probably be no.
No, exactly. It's yeah.
Cool.
I feel also when I was studying music, I was one of the best grades I got in free jazz. We had a free jazz ensemble, and I really enjoyed doing it. But I would never, ever, you could never drag me to a free jazz concert. I wouldn't listen to that crap. I find it, for the most part, so random, and it's so much fun to play, but I have absolutely no pleasure in listening to it.
Yeah, it's acquired taste. I don't know what would be a famous free jazz, like, because some of Mingus's later stuff is pretty out there, but I still enjoy listening to it, so I'm not sure what. So yeah, what they'd call free jazz can just get a bit ridiculous after a while. There's no sense to it anymore. Everyone's playing their own song. They're gone.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, how much more annoying can we make music?
Or the drummer starts knocking over the drumsticks to make random noises and smash a bottle or something.
And for example, I'm a big fan of Mike Patton, but when I don't know how much you know about Mike Patton.
I know most of his work, like in all these side projects and stuff.
Mr. Bungle and Fantomas. When the first Fantomas record came out, I was like, oh my god, what is this? This is amazing. And then the second one came out and it was Soundchecks, and I was like, they really kind of did something different. I expected the same, just in different shade of color. And then they kind of turned back to that recipe, and I noticed, no, it's actually boring. Like, one record in that style is more than enough. And some of the stuff that he did is also so far out that I was like, I always thought I love everything Mike Patton touches and does, but I don't.
Yeah, some of it is out there, yeah, but he's kind of entertaining himself a lot of the time as well. Like, he's just like,
exactly,
what can I do? I'm getting bored of this other stuff.
And I mean, I find it amazing that people listen to that stuff. So there's a market for everything. But in that case, you really, really have to do some research on, okay, who's gonna like this? And how can I get to them? Where do they hang out?
Yeah, well, I like when people experiment, like even Metallica, whatever people think of them, they took a lot of risks with different records, be it like their blues rock albums, the Load and Reload, or
Yeah,
the Trash Can snare drum on Saint Anger. Like,
that
that's
was
cool.
that was the album that got me into Metallica.
I think a lot
I
of
was like,
people, it was, if you were that age when it came out, like a lot of people, that was one of their first introductions, Saint Anger.
yeah. No, I before that I always thought, they're just too clean. Metal's got to be more dirty.
Well, that's the right album anyway, with the
Because
dirtiness.
I didn't know the 80s albums, the fresh albums that they put
Mm.
out. I kind of knew the Black album, and then what came after that, I don't even know.
That was
And
Load and
then,
Reload after the Black Album.
yeah, and then there was Saint Anger. First of all, I'm a big Trujillo fan, so that was already scored a lot of bonus points.
Mm.
But I love that snare drum. I was like, what were they thinking? That doesn't sound at all like Metallica, but somehow I loved it. And
It's cool that someone would take a risk, though. That's what I like
yeah,
about them. You know, they're not afraid of taking a risk and getting
no,
slagged
exactly.
about it. But but we can't alter that. But it's no harm. So, but with the solo bass thing, you just got to think about it as music. That's at the end of the day, isn't it? Just don't be thinking too much about the fact that you're playing a bass guitar, which you obviously are, but it's just what you chose to express yourself. It's the instrument that you're most comfortable expressing yourself
Yeah,
on.
no, exactly. My teacher in music college taught me one of the few things that I really took away from his lessons, because to some degrees he wasn't a very good teacher. But the one thing, the biggest takeaway was really, you know, I don't think of myself as a bass player. I think of myself as a musician who's really good at playing bass. And I was like, that makes total sense.
Mm.
Like, yeah, I have music in me. I want to let it out, and technically, I can do it the best on this instrument. So I don't really care which instrument it is, as long as I can technically translate what's in my head and bring it out there.
Yeah, it's like I love what Les Claypool said on the exact same thing. He said, "Bass is just the crayon that I picked out of the pack." It's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
That's just what I like to draw with. Like, but it's not as important as you're making it out to be. The actual instrument I'm playing.
exactly. Yeah. And with him, you can really hear it. He doesn't think, "Oh, I've got to play a bass line." For the
No, there's
most
no
part,
rules.
no, exactly.
So grab your bass, Misha. It's plugged in, isn't it? So I suppose you could, as for like myself, and I'm sure lots of the people listening, they end up making up little pieces, and then you're thinking, how do I like that thing I made up? Started with like, and I was like,
Yeah,
wow, that's cool, and I managed to finish the song. But for that one riff that I finished, I probably have hundreds that never got anywhere. So it's quite finishing a solo bass piece is a hard
uh,
thing to do.
let me tell you a secret. It's the same with me. So,
Maybe break
phew,
down one of your pieces that you think would be
yeah.
a good for demonstrating how you'd go a solo bass piece. I like the song "Reborn Again" on your album, but I'm not sure when's the last time you played that, so you mightn't
Oh my God.
remember how to play
Yeah,
it.
I don't have my looper set up now, but that is actually the most revised song. That's why it's called Reborn Again, because it's not just reborn, it's reborn again and again and again and again.
Press delete a lot of times. You're like, it's not working.
Yeah, and actually, it was. Oh, actually, yeah, that one was directly inspired by Victor Wooten, by Sex in a Pen. He had this. Something like that
Hmm.
with Bela Fleck and the Fleck tones. And I kind of want that same sound, but different, obviously. And it started out very similar to that song and kind of slowly moved away from there. But, um, whew, let me think. Let me let me pick another song.
Any song? No, don't get stuck on that one. Pick one you think is the best for
I'm just gonna do one
demonstrating solo bass.
That doesn't need loops. Otherwise, it'll be hard to understand what I'm talking about. So, for example, let's talk about Walk, because that really came to me totally natural. The first song that I ever wrote, and it's basically what you described. I had this new concept that I've learned: spread triads. So basically, instead of playing a triad like this, in the what's that standard shape over 3 strings, you take the middle note up an octave, and then you can just take the 5 on that string. So it kind of comes close to a guitar chord from the shape. And then you can play the inversions of that. So the first note goes to the 3rd, the second note goes to the octave, and the 10 or the 3rd goes to the 5th. And then you have this shape. And then you go, obviously, tried 2 inversions. Second inversion is up here. And I kind of just... So that just sounded really great to me.
Well, that's very pleasing to the ear straight away. You're like, oh, that's nice.
And sometimes, I have to be honest, my ears are not that well developed. I really wish I would put more time in it, but somehow I have a lot of resistance to ear training. So,
I was a latecomer to ear train. I only started doing it about 5 years ago maybe. And because I was in an original band, I didn't really have the need for it as much as I thought I did anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, but transcribing is the best training, I think. Mm-hmm. Most of the exercises are just not the same. So instead of exactly hearing something in my head and then trying to replicate it on the fretboard, I often just accidentally jump into shapes that my fingers already know. So what I did here is, from that second inversion, I just jump back to the first shape that I had, just somewhere else. I was like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And then in retrospective, kind of analyzing, oh, that's just the 4. Okay, that's cool. And then I'm not sure how I got to this. Here we are on the first inversion of our root note again, our root chord. Kind of at first, I don't know. I think I was just thinking, let's put some chromatism in there.
With voice, you need to have good voice leading in anything like that, don't you? Like,
yeah. I mean, I think that's also one of the main things that I took away from music college, is really just voice leading. And I teach in music college now. I actually teach classical teachers how to improvise and how to teach jazz, rock, pop.
Oh yeah, they're terrible at improvising, those classical musicians. They're just like, what? There's no sheet music? No, there's no sheet music for doing an improvised solo.
I mean, it really depends. Sometimes I have groups that are totally open and they listen to a lot of jazz, rock, pop, so it's really easy to get the idea across. And then sometimes you have people where it's like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to play a 4-bar phrase, and you've got these 3 notes. Just come up with something. And but what should I play? Right? Just play the 3 notes, one after the other. Think of a rhythm. Like, what rhythm?
Yeah, exactly. When I was a teenager, I used this girl who sang in a jazz band we had going for a little while, and like, she was amazing, like a virtuoso piano player, and I was just like, I'll just go like this. I was like, solo, go for it. And she's like, what are you talking about? It's like, I just saw you play the piano, you're the best musician in this band by a mile. Yeah. No, didn't know how to solo to like the little blues shuffle.
But I've learned a secret technique just not too long ago, how to get those people out of the trenches. You have to start letting them improvise without improvising. So you basically you play your chord sequence like mine. going to repeat those 4. And then, okay, here's one note. You're going to play that one note in quarter notes on the pulse. Go. That's your improvisation for now. Dee, dee, dee. And then you say, okay, here's a second note. Now, all the freedom you have is you get to decide when you change from one note to the other. It's still going to be quarter notes.
It's baby steps you're really getting.
Exactly. They're going to be so tiny that they don't even notice that they're making their own decisions. But yeah, getting back to the song, because this one, I kind of like how it evolves. I started with this main chord progression, a little bit of chromatism, and then I wanted to go somewhere else. And I think at that point, I started thinking about, okay, what key am I in? What other options do I have? And I was like, okay, I want to go higher, so... And these are then just normal or standard 7-chord voicings.
That's the great thing about the bass, though. When you have your high C string, it's tuned in fourths, so you can still do that same shape as you do on the rest of the bass, unlike a guitar. Like.
Yeah. And of course, the dominant in the end. And yeah, the intro is just kind of rubato.
Mischa, would you say it's essential to have the side hand technique to be a solo bass player? Like,
No.
You don't think you have to be able to do this, like that kind of thing, you know?
The thing that I noticed from just doing 4 shows of Strictly Bass Live now, that every solo bassist has such a totally different and unique approach. So there's absolutely no conditions. You can do solo bass and just groove really cool bass lines. I think that will work just as well. You don't need a 5-string instrument, you don't need super hip electronics to change your sound, or you don't need a looper. You just need to have music in your head and let it out in your instrument. So
you think anyone can start doing
unless
solo
you have
bass?
a sound in your head that you can't get out of your instrument because you're lacking the technique. And to some degree that always motivated me to keep practicing and checking out new stuff and thinking, okay, for example, my first song where I used tap, actually, is it the first? It's not really the first song, but there's this really standard tapping pattern where you play the root note, then you play the 5th, then the 9, and then the 3rd.
Yeah, I was actually doing that earlier.
Yeah. I copied that one from Victor Wooten. I don't know if anyone else did it before him or at the same time. But to me, that's the standard.
I copied it off Cody Wright. I saw him doing it.
Yeah. But then you do that once or twice, and then you think, okay, what else is there?
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of start thinking about, okay, which other notes could I play? Or how can I use my hand in different positions to play different shapes? And one of the things that I came up with was, a lot of techniques have these kind of expectations attached to them. It's like, when you slap, it's got to be funky. When you tap, it's got to be a ballad. It's like, let's try and do a funky tapping lick.
That's a good point, though, that to take techniques outside of their comfort zone or where they're cliched to be used can lead you into interesting musical directions.
Totally. So, that's how my third song came about. Was that's a looping song again. Then get a backbeat and a kind of beboppy melody on top of that. But yeah, I always, I think I kind of went from challenge to challenge for a long time, and to some degree that taught me a lot about my instrument and how to not get stuck playing the same things over and over. But at the same time, it also blinded me to just making beautiful music that doesn't need to be super exciting to watch. That just sounds nice. For example, you complimented me on my arrangement for Hey Hey My My.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, really nice
Young.
melody on the bass.
It couldn't be more simple than how I arranged that thing. It's basically just the root note and then the melody on top. Not really anything else happening.
Yeah, that sounds great. I suppose you picked the right song and it just works really well on the bass in that way.
Exactly. Just put a load of reverb on it and you're good to go.
Yeah, reverb saves everything.
Yeah, and yeah, sometimes the path of least resistance is the path you should take. And then on other occasions, for example, I'm always a bit too embarrassed to admit, but I like a lot of Rihanna songs, and I thought that would be a challenge to kind of take that to solo bass. I was like, but I'm not gonna just do the root note melody thing. That would be a bit boring. So I wanted to jazz it up a little bit. And then I think for the verse, I really went. But then for the chorus, I really wanted some more tension.
Nice. And you worked this one out by ear, obviously. You were saying you don't do a lot of stuff as much by ear, but you would have worked out a song like that by ear, would you?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of trial and error to come up with this, but I also cheated a little bit. I found a piano version of it, a sheet online, and I thought, let's just have a look.
That's not cheating. You spend years learning how to read music, so you may as well use it. Like,
yeah, I was just, I don't know.
Do you know what I like to do?
Retrospective it's always hard to remember where you got stuck and why you were looking for help or whatever you want to call it. But I remember, oh yeah, it's because that chorus is somehow it's really weird from how the chords change. You think it's an obvious pop song, but the chords and the melody is kind of chunked up really weirdly. And I was like, I want some affirmation that I'm getting this right. I just couldn't get that song, the melody and the form of the chorus into my head. And then when I saw that sheet, I was like, so that's what's happening. Okay, so now I know where I can go from there. Before that, I was just kind of looking and why is it not working? What's wrong? Why can't I get it to sound round and whole?
Cool. Yeah, no, that's it. I use Ultimate Guitar sometimes. The other way they have the pro, I don't read the tabs. They have the Pro tabs, but they're MIDI, so you can like listen to the vocal melody, but it's done out. So you can. It's a really. So the melodies are isolated. You can just play along with them and figure them out by ear. That's a handy little cheat.
Oh yeah, no, true. That's a good exercise.
So what's going to be the plan for the future with Mission Bass? You're doing these kind of live. You did one with Carl, a live interview, and it was a performance and interview. Is that the format of it?
That was the principal idea, and I'm leaning towards doing a similar thing that you do, having kind of themed guests, because I've noticed that having only let me just switch that camera back.
Yep.
For now, at least. having
play some nice solo
only
bass
being
under
able
you.
to only being able to host solo bassists kind of felt limiting, because I got requests from people. I really love what you do. Can I appear on your show? Like, for example, Ed Bateman, who's coming on the show this Saturday, and we're just doing a live masterclass on African bass. And he said he's going to prepare something where he's going to try and do the percussion on his loop and then add the bass and stuff like that. I'm going to play a couple of tunes too, but it's going to have more of a masterclassy touch, where it's more for the bass community than for the fans of bass music. And my Facebook group, Mission Bass, is really trying to combine both of these worlds. And I say, for once, what always upset me is there's so many bass groups on Facebook and communities, but the moment when you as a bassist promote what you have, if that's lessons, if that's your music or anything, it's like, hey, there's no promotion in this group, dude. It's like,
they're actually the level of conversation on these groups has gone from like really high, people interacting, and to like zero. Like I'm actually admin on 2 groups, which adds up to about 60,000 people.
Oh, okay.
Only recently, because I got so sick of them being so bad, I asked the guy, do you want me to help you out? And I've been helping them out the last 2 weeks, and the absolute shite that people put up is unbelievable. Like, and then when people put up something that's really good, no one even interacts with it. So I'm like, what is these? But your group is good because you're you'll like promoting good content to go up, and you kind of have to have a bit of an iron hand to steer it in a good conversation, like, and to I suppose add something to the community instead of it just being a load of random stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of what we get back to, this whole go-giver mentality. And I was just thinking, like, I'm already a solo bassist who's not playing in a band, who's just playing on his own and doing my own thing. But first of all, there's so many other solo bassists out there which I wasn't aware of, and so many amazing ones on top of that. So I thought, okay, how do I connect to these? So I came up with a show, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to give each one of them a chance to appear on the show and present their music to my fans for the most part. Hopefully some of their fans show up too and listen to my music, but that's just really the side effect. And then kind of create a network between those solo bassists to help each other out, because obviously I would say at least 70% of the people that like Carl's music will enjoy my music as well. And why should we not cross-promote our music? Mm-hmm. So the people that like my music get to know Carl. The people that like Carl's music get to know me, and so forth. And we can kind of create a whole community of solo bassists that just multiply the reach that we have. Versus the whole competition thing. Oh, there's another solo bassist. Oh shit, he did a really clever thing. How can I top that?
Yeah.
No, let's just kind of join hands and work together.
That's guitar community mentality. It's all a competition.
Exactly. And so many things are nowadays. It's kind of sad. And I'm thinking, there's this quote from Victor Wooten's mum who said, the world doesn't need any more good musicians. The world needs more good people. And I was thinking, you know what? Bassists often are really cool people or good people, because they know that, especially the ones that know their place. They know they're in the band to support everyone else, make everyone else shine. If the singer sounds good, that's a compliment to the bass. Mm-hmm. If someone comes after the gig to you and says, I really didn't notice you that much. You've done a great job as a bass player.
Yeah, that's it. Because
if you messed up, they would have noticed. Then the whole band would have sounded shit. So, and yeah, I don't know. We are natural supporters. And I thought maybe I can leverage on that and create a community not only of solo bassists, but of bass players in general, and then also get the luthiers and the amp makers on board. at the moment, I'm just aiming at small ones because I think those got hit now in the pandemic the worst, like not being able to open their shops and having people come in, stopping by, trying their instruments. Just start getting people talking about these small luthiers again and creating connection. But also for the people that offer lessons and have online courses and camps, whichever service, it doesn't all have to be free. It's really about quality. And you can always say, oh, that's too expensive for me, I'm not interested. That's totally fine. But now we have a platform where you can go if you're like, oh, I'm looking for a really great bass teacher. Okay, we've got we are just about to hit 400 people in the group. It's really small. I'm trying to make sure that there's really the right people in that group and not just random people that, I'm thinking of buying a bass.
That's the problem. When I'm adminning, it's like, who are these people? They don't have any interest in being part of a bass community. They're just looking for a free guitar.
Yeah, exactly. Or bass memes.
Yeah, I wish that was all they were posting. This is such crazy stuff gets put up.
But yeah, I hope that it grows to a place where professional bass players can come to check out small brand luthiers that can just read you the wish from your eyes and build you the instrument of your dreams and just have them all in one spot. I hope that people that want to learn the bass, which hopefully is also being pushed by the whole mission bass thing and by the Strictly Bass live show, and it's like, oh, that's also possible, that's also bass. Okay, yeah, I want to learn bass rather than guitar. Guitar is boring. And then they can come to the group and look for that teacher that kind of jives with them. Because you can be a brilliant teacher, but you need that chemistry with your student. I think sometimes the student and the teacher is better off to just referring you to someone else. And I have done that before where people are, I really want to have lessons with you. And it's like, yeah, sure, I can teach you stuff, but for what you want to learn, the way you want to learn, I know someone who's a better fit. So check him out. And they're usually really grateful for that. More grateful than me kind of trying to adapt and not being my authentic teacher self in that sense. And yeah, I don't know.
I do the same. I will move on students to someone else if what I do is not a good fit. Like you can't put a round peg into a square hole. Like it has to work. You were uploading steadily there for a while. I was checking it out.
Yeah, it's funny. A couple of months ago, I've got a few messages. Oh, you just popped up in my on my start screen. I was like, oh wow, they start pushing my videos. Well,
it's demoralizing. It's hard, isn't it, when you make what is a really good video and then no one sees it. It's just like, oh god, all that work.
And that was the thing for me with the videos. It took me a week to create a video, and then the next week I needed to do another video. I didn't play a single minute of bass in that time. It's really just like for the video. I was like, I kind of like the result, but I'm not doing this, not in this form, not in this not as often, at least.
Same here. I got burnt out quickly enough. I'm like, I can't keep. It's just my whole week is taken up doing these super high production videos, like.
Exactly. And then came the live thing. I mean, it was already there for 10 years. I just didn't know about it. But I guess it became more affordable and more reliant with the internet connection quality and everything. So since I checked that out 1.5 years ago, I really kind of went all in on that and tried to continuously raise the quality of my live streams, and it's such a relief. I have to say, it's still a struggle. I'm doing every month, every week, every Thursday I go live for at least an hour, just jamming with my loop station. And yeah, I have those nights where I'm like, oh man, I'm just repeating the same patterns again and again. Like, I need to do some practicing. I need to get inspired again. But I don't have this whole tail of production after it where you're just like, okay, now I'm going to edit it. And then I have to upload it and tag it and research the right keywords and find the right blog post for it and send out an automatic email series that kind of goes along with the blog post and the video. And it was this whole load of work that just got left behind and kind of gave me more time to get inspired again, playing different stuff, but also just doing short videos every now and then when I'm just, oh, that's actually a cool thought that I can share with my community. And like this whole, oh wait, let me just grab something. So the whole life thing, this thing came about, the way of the ambassador.
See,
like
yeah,
my
nice.
10 commandments for the good bassist. And those are also basically the guidelines of mission bass. And I feel that, as I said before, that bassists are inherently good people because they have all these good qualities of, we don't need to be in the spotlight, but we can still lead and support. And what else is it?
I never met a bass player I didn't like. I have to say, whenever you're at a tour, at a festival or something, you'll always get on with the bassist.
Generally, yes, but I have to say there's a couple of foul apples there as well.
I haven't met them yet. Anyway.
You can find them everywhere, but that's the thing. That's why I call these guys, the good ones, are the ambassadors.
Yeah,
they're kind of giving back, and the other guys, they know how to play the bass, but they didn't really understand what playing bass is all about, that it is about support. Those are usually the guys that you catch kind of totally overplaying, and then the solo player or the singer kind of looks back at them with an eggy face like, what the hell are you doing? Can't you just let me sing my song?
Well, they swiftly get fired anyway if you do that.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's why I think if we can get more people to play bass in this world, we've already done quite a bit for the bettering of the world.
With bass, true. I love it. Mission bass. So, just so the listeners know, where do you do these live streams? Is it on your YouTube channel or on Mission Bass Facebook page?
I actually host them on Crowdcast.
Okay.
Because what I decided to do is I stream it live, and it's going to be available on Facebook as well, on my page and in the Mission Bass group for the weekend. And then I take it off social media. And only who signed up to Crowdcast can watch the replay whenever they want. Because I really want people that are committed. That really, it's a mission, right? It's not just, okay, if you just want to check it out, come and check it out. Be there live. But if you want to join Mission Bass and you want to kind of do something more than just have fun with yourself, give something back to the community, and that's the commitment that I kind of demand from
and it's free to join Mission Bass, is it? But you just have to interact.
If you have an email address,
that's it.
That's it.
Do you think there's too much free content out there in the world? Like, is it people expect not, or even you're not asking anything except an email and to be part of the group, which is a payment, not a payment, but it's something anyway. They have to. It's a payment. So, like, is there just too much free stuff just going up on YouTube all the time, and people are just expecting that? And because they get so much of it, they just don't interact with anything or really care about a lot of the stuff that goes up.
Yeah, there's a thing about you get what you pay for, or you get the clients that are attracted to the price that you offer your product at. So in that sense, I think it can be dangerous to offer stuff for free. But at the same time, I have this crazy idea that culture and arts should be accessible for everyone, no matter what your bank account says. because it's so important for the society to kind of get on a good path. And I also have this crazy belief that there's enough people out there that are willing to donate without having to. And I'd rather kind of try it that way. And so far, I'm at this level where the show is paying for itself. I'm not making a single dollar of it, but at least I'm not left with the cost, with the investment that I put in. And I'm planning on doing some things where we can have a subscription-based model. And it's like, oh yeah, you pay 30 euros a year or something, and then you get all of this stuff. And you can always give more, of course, but just a really little amount that hurts nobody. Kind of what Steve Lawson inspired me to do that.
Yeah, he's
also
that's class what he does on Bandcamp. Yeah, you're a
exactly.
member for the year, like.
And to be honest, I hardly ever check the stuff out that he brings out. But just knowing that I support him is already good enough to me. And I know any time that I need some inspiration, that's a great place to go to, because he's so far out. You're definitely going to take something away from that. And yeah, those are the kind of people that I want to attract.
Yeah,
and in that sense, true. I think we really got to, as musicians or as artists in general, we just got to think about who do we want to attract. And is it the cheapskates that just want stuff for free? Well, let them have it for free if you still have a crowd that says, you know what, you are so inspiring, you've helped me so much, like the typical story about song done well, like, you saved my life, I was about to kill myself, and then I heard your song and everything changed. And I already had similar stories to that. I had a guy from Iran writing to me, and he was like, oh man, I heard your song and it really touched my heart, and I'm just going to a really rough time. I'm about to go to prison because I'm kind of gotten in trouble with the government. And can you record a short bit of your music for me? Sorry for that. That I can take to prison and listen to, so to get me through that time. And I'm like, sure, man. Like that's exactly that's what makes me feel rewarded, and like my music means something. I want my music to mean something, and that doesn't mean that only rich people can access it. I want everyone to have it, and everyone who can give. And if you don't, well, you might not get the 100%, but you're still getting 80% of what I have to offer. So yeah, I think everyone has to make that decision on their own. I remember in the beginning of streaming, a lot of bands were saying they're never going to stream their music and stuff like that. And well, that's great for you because you're so famous, you don't depend on any of that. But there's two perspectives to streaming. On one hand, you can say, they're ripping us off. We're only getting 0.000 cents for one stream. Or you could look at it, actually, it's free promotion of my music and distribution of my music. And I'm actually getting paid, even if it's little. But I'm getting paid for someone else to distribute my music and possibly more people finding my music. And if you put a little bit of work in it, you can actually really make it work for you. That growing your listeners from month to month and stuff.
It's not
like
a perfect model, like, but they need to, if they can change it, like they put in that new thing now where you click a button to donate some money to the artists.
Yeah.
If they had more stuff like that, where people are the acts they really like, they give money to that's the way forward. Like,
yes and no. I think we've, as musicians especially, fallen into the trap of kind of not taking responsibility for ourselves, because that whole idea of the old music industry where you land the record deal and then everything's hanky-dory from there on, right? They pay for your album and they pay for your tour, and Well, it was a nice dream, and a lot of people got a lot out of it, had a lot of fun, but it wasn't really sustainable, was it? And that's why it had to collapse. So I really think that we're in a much better place right now, because now we can have that build that relationship with the fans. You can have one-on-one interactions via email, via Zoom, or whatever. You can you don't have that buffer in between the record label who's kind of keeping everyone away, that it's not contributing to the artist's success. And I think that little kick in the groins to just, come on, you want to make music with just playing your instrument, call it your hobby. I know some people get really offended when someone says, "Oh, so you're clever, you just make your hobby your job, huh? You don't have to work a single day." And it's like, well, that's not true. It is work, and there's a whole lot of thing that goes around it. If you actually want to make it a job, you have to do a whole lot more than just enjoy playing your instrument. But apart from that, yeah, let's all learn how to do all of that on our own, so we're not stuck and dependent on a label, on other people to replicate that at any time. That's also kind of the whole thing that pushed me into solo bass. I wanted to be independent. I didn't want to have to rely on other people to feel in the mood to record a record, to go on tour or write new songs.
It's true. The old model didn't work anyway. Before, like someone paid €20 for a CD, and the band might get 20 cents or something, like, of the overall. So, like,
exactly. So
hopefully this new model will eventually start working, but the old one didn't work 100%. We know that already. Like, so.
Yeah. So yeah, I wonder who got ripped off more. And if you talk to any of the old session guys, like Phil Chen is a good friend of mine. I don't know if you know him. He played with Jeff Beck and Bob Marley, and with the guy from the Doors. What's his name?
Robbie Krieger.
Yeah, Robbie Krieger, and with the Who guys. And he did loads of session work in London in the 70s and 80s. He was one of the #1 call bassists there. And when we met at the Warwick Bass Camp, obviously always music playing in the background, good music, of course. And every third song he was like, I played for that on that song. I'm still waiting to get paid.
It's terrible, isn't it?
Sorry, but why would you wish back that time? Of course, yeah, now you have to do more than just playing your instrument, but you get what you put in. That's the difference.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but you get back what you put in. Like, you can
exactly.
You're in charge of your own future, really, these days. But it is a lot of work to. It's hard to just be the guy who plays the bass and just drift along these days. You kind of have to do all the other stuff, don't we? That us as musicians sometimes don't really like doing, because we do just want to play the bass.
Yeah, but then you just gotta keep it a hobby.
Yeah, well, I've had lots of jobs, and I think playing bass is the only one that I'd be happy doing. So I'm okay doing all the extra stuff, so I can continue just sitting in my shed for a few hours every day playing the bass. Like, that's
exactly that. I think we've got, like, the whole. I don't know how old you are, but I expect you to be about the same age as me. I'm 37, so I'm just on the verge of being a millennial. Maybe you can still call me a millennial. And our generation is so entitled. We just think we deserve everything and more on top. And that's part of the whole dissatisfaction of getting just a couple of 0.000 cents for a stream. It's like, you're not entitled to get more. What did you put in to be entitled to get more? Who are you really serving with your music? Because if you do the Billie Eilish thing and you come up with music that so many people like, then even that will all add up.
Well, people need to stop thinking, even though we live in a globalized world and we see all these crazy numbers, but if you look like someone like Steve Lawson, he has he have a few hundred people following him, but like is a few hundred core subscribers paying him, and that he makes a living doing that. So you should be concentrating on.
He doesn't completely make a living off that. I think I calculated it even once, and it's about £10,000 or something
but he does okay, out of it. Like, I'm saying, like,
exactly. He teaches at music college at the same time, so kind of the combination. I think that's where it should go, and he's totally being creative, being his authentic self, and then on top of it, he's giving back as a teacher. So that we need more people like that. Just like, okay, I want to give back, and no, I'm not entitled for everyone to like my music and pay me millions of dollars for it. No, in that sense, the competition is too big. There's so many people out there that make great music, and not every one of them can become a millionaire and be the best in the world or the most popular in the world. So find your people, and if you can make, did Rich Brown say on your show, or was it in another interview? It's like, it's enough to pay the bills. And like, what more can I ask for?
Define what success is. Like
paying the bills.
Define what success means to you, and for most people, it means being able to pay the bills, live comfortably, and to be creatively satisfied and play music. I think that's what most people want.
Yeah. What more can you ask for?
I don't know. I mean, not get a hangover when you drink a load of pints. Maybe that. Yeah.
On the other hand, getting back to Mission Bass, I would love it if it becomes something as big where we can say, okay, we're going to have these big events and we're going to give back to a bigger community. We're going to open a school in Africa to teach bass to the people there, or something like that. That would be great. But that would also more be of a non-profit kind of giving back type of model. It's not about, oh, how can I get rich with this scheme? No, it's really like...
people would see through that, though, straight away anyway. They'd see that you were doing that. They'd be like, this guy, no, I don't want to be part of his journey because I know what he's doing. Like,
yeah, and my daughter's 9 years old, and it stopped now, but for a while I was always getting the questions by her and by her friends, like, if you had 3 wishes, what would you wish? The first thing that I would wish is get anything I want instantly. And I was like, I would be a bit worried if that would be the truth, because you'd have nothing to live for anymore. You could end your life right then. Like, if there's nothing to work for, nothing to live for, why are you living?
Yeah, you've no vocation, you've no drive. It's just like I saw a thing. They said that when someone wins the lottery, whatever millions they win, they've found statistically that people are exactly as happy 6 months after getting the money as they were 6 months before. So if they were really happy before they won, they'll be back to that level of happiness. But if they're really depressed, they'll get a spike for 6 months and then they'll go back to, because they weren't fulfilled before, like, they got the money.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole other theory about that if you're financially uneducated, you're going to end up with even more debt after having those €1 million on your account.
Sure, you need the gold toilet seat. That's important when you get €1 million. You need to have the gold bathroom.
But that's the thing. I have nothing against becoming rich and making $1 million a year, but not for me. If I make $1 million, then I think, I don't know, 70,000 would be more than enough to live the life that I could dream of. And then the rest, I would use it to something like, okay, let's see, how can we get more people to play bass? How can we get more people to think like bass players? How can we make music, art and culture and what would you call it? Psychological education accessible in Africa, in places where a lot of traumatized people live, and use music as a means of healing as well. So, like, Do I need a private jet? No, I don't.
No, I don't think
really not.
Do you need 20 or 100 fedoras worth €9,000? No.
No, not at all. I'm now thinking of chucking the frets out of my old Ibanez and making it fretless, because it's the first bass that I ever bought for my own money, so I don't want to sell it. But it's
I actually did that with my first bass. It's there and made it fretless. Sounds great.
Yeah, exactly. See,
it's not hard, honestly. You just rip them out and fill them up, and it'll be grand. It'll sound good.
Yeah, I've got a tip today that you just have to heat up the frets before you pull them out.
Yeah, you pop them out, then get some epoxy resin in the DIY shop, whichever one you have in Germany. Mix it up, fill the holes. You're done, pretty much.
Exactly. So yeah.
Where would people check you out, Mischa? Is your main place you hang out on that Facebook group, Mission Base, or Instagram, or is it which one would you prefer people to be directed towards?
Probably most of it Mission Base, the Facebook group. You can also always follow my page, but I'm doing some experimentation at the moment. I'm always trying to check out what the algorithm is doing. Unfortunately, it's just changing so fast that sometimes it's hard to get reliable data on what makes sense to do. And I don't want to be stressed out and just, you got to post to keep the momentum going. So I'm trying to really cut that down and focus more on the group, because it's just also more interactive. Yeah. On my page, it's me talking to the people, and obviously sometimes there's a comment, but no one can post on my page and I can comment on that. So in the group, it's really a give and take, and I like that much more. Obviously, you can just check out my website, mischamarcks.com, and then there's links to anything: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter is really just kind of a copy of what I post to Facebook.
I don't use it at all. And of course, your album on Spotify, just open path, search
Twitter.
that.
But I've now learned that most press people are on Twitter, so I'm kind of reconsidering if I should have a little round there and see.
No, don't go near Twitter, because it's all about arguments, and you'll end up get people telling you not to play solo bass every day.
oh God! Are people even aware of solo bass on Twitter? I didn't know.
I don't know. Well, the algorithm on Twitter kind of rewards you for arguing. That's how it works. So they want people to argue, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things wrong with our society and how things are going, but bass
is a positive thing.
Too much money behind it.
Bass is a positive thing in society. We can keep pushing the bass. That's the main thing.
Exactly. And I think us too, we're already doing our part.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Just got to keep doing it, inspire more people to do the same. And as we said before, if someone else doing a solo-based live streaming show, that's not competition, that's company, or a bass podcast. And I hope that we can all kind of move that way and create something bigger together, that's bigger than the sum of us.
Cheers, man. Thanks for coming on, and I'll get everyone to check that out. Down in the description, I'll have all the stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Man.
Good chat,
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
No bother.